In this webinar, called Learning Teaching English at Home, Transforming Changes into Opportunity, Rosella Manni and me are going to share reflections and experiences on the shift to remote learning due to COVID-19 emergency and how to get the most from this experience. Okay, let's start from some reflection on the impact on ELT teaching. I started my reflection from this question: how has my teaching changed? There are several factors I identified. First, the necessity to enhance my digital competence. Following, attending training courses, workshop, watching tutorials. And also I had to adapt to the new online setting environment, buying or technical equipment, using online platforms, searching for online resources and materials. Also, I tried to make my communication online more effective and to improve my presentation, public speaking skills in order to motivate and engage students both in synchronous and asynchronous mode. Of course, I had also to modify my strategies, promoting students' collaboration and interactions and their active involvement. Consequently, for testing and assessment, emphasis was placed on formative assessment, considering the emergency situations, our learners' needs, and following also the Ministry of Education guidelines. Last but not the least, I try to adapt to any different learning situation using flexibility, time management skills, so be clear, concise, kind, empathetic, taking care of students' well-being. Not to mention the exaggerated workload, increased workload. In short, in short time, we got used to what we can call the new normal, with the screen voices. As you can see, this is a photo of one of my online classes. Sometimes I could see only faces. Sometimes I could hear only voices. Sometimes only the letters of their names. So we could say a new form of behavior, communication, interaction was inaugurated with this, online learning due to COVID emergency. This was the typical starting of our online lesson. Can you hear me? Or switch off the mic, for example, or turn on the cameras. Please write in the chat your feedback, your opinion. I also wanted to share with you the opinion of a student about online learning, because I think that it may be helpful to understand the same shift to online learning, but seen from a different perspective, from students' perspective. This was an assignment given during lockdown. I asked the classroom to write a diary, studying and learning in quarantine. And I asked them to share opinions, feelings about this period, about their quarantine routine. And I also asked them to answer two questions. What is it like to learn online? What activities would you like to do during online classes? And they could join this collaborative space, sharing and writing their opinion, and all the classmates could read the opinions of the classmates. This text, I chose this text because, in my opinion, it was very interesting. Learning online is a good alternative to studying at school in an emergency situations. The students is aware that maybe that was the only opportunity, the only possibility to go on studying. And thanks to the new technologies, they could take part in the lesson remotely from their houses. Of course, she underlines the fact that she preferred going to school, meeting her friends. But another important aspect is that, she's aware that it's important to adjust to the new situation, and adjustment is repeated again. And also, and this is very, very interesting, she also said that in this new environment, she would like to do different things from the activities that she generally does at school, because it's a different situation. And she would like, for example, to be involved in more creative projects. So, after this reflection, I want to ask you, and also I want to ask myself another question. How can we transform these changes into opportunities? What can we learn from this experience? For teachers, this is a very important and crucial question, in my opinion. It can mean to adopt a new learning paradigm, rethinking teaching and assessment practices. And this implies, above all, a shift to feedback for improvement and mindful assessment. Explicit here is the reference to Crockett and Church's work on the 6 essential fluencies of innovative learning. So let's focus our attention on online feedback and its importance. Let's start from a famous definition of Professor John Attis about feedback, seen as the most powerful single moderator that enhances achievement. It means providing information about how and why the students understand and misunderstands, and what direction the student must take to improve. So we can understand immediately that this concept is really, really important, and becomes even more important in online teaching, in online lessons. Online feedback, of course, is information from a teacher, a peer, but in online format. So it could be written word, audio file, video, live web-based conferencing. But let's see the main purpose of online feedback. It's important to build, but we could say to rebuild a relationship between teacher and learners through positive interactions, to focus on a formative assessment, which means monitoring students' learning. And to be effective, online feedback should be timely, positive, and constructive. So based on observation, can be applied to a single student or a group of students, and can take place among students themselves, so peer to peer. Then we can take into consideration also self-feedback and reflection, and self-assessment and collaborative assessment that represent, we could say, an improvement and an improvement of student learning process. How can we give effective online feedback? This is a very important skill for teachers, for educators, because it guides the learner's development. We have to provide informal feedback. We can provide it at any moment. It's important that it is frequent. We could also decide a precise moment, maybe every week, every 2 weeks. It should be immediate to be effective, and also specific, so not vague, but as to answer and to explain the students maybe where they made mistakes. So the how and why of the previous definition. When giving feedback, we should use a positive tone, combining praise and encouragement, especially in this period of uncertainty, of anxiety. Is very important to support students using a positive tone, and should be clear because it has to communicate specific information. It's also important to add questions, comments, to promote critical thinking in the learner. So again, avoid the vague comments, only good job, or just, for example, if it's a feedback about an activity, grammar mistakes. It should explain, it should add questions, trying to elicit students' reaction on how and why maybe they, have or haven't understood something. And also, feedback implies sharing ideas, opinions with the students, also in terms of results, testing results, documents, grid, rubrics. Here on the right, you can see the ladder of a feedback, which is an approach to assessing for understanding that establishes a culture of trust and constructive support. This ladder suggests the following this sequence from clarify, value, concern, and suggest when providing feedback. Giving effective feedback is possible in online teaching and learning thanks to a lot of tech tools and techniques. Among the most used, here are some that are listed. There are electronic publishing, audio capture, visual audio, computer-assisted assessment, live polling, blogs, and other peer activities. And in the next slide, we would like to give you some examples of a very simple but effective forms, types of feedback you can use in the online lessons. Informal feedback, honestly, especially in the lockdown period, but very often at the beginning of my lesson, I used this activity, how do you feel activity, asking my students how they feel. And I can do that using tag clause, using Mentimeter, for example, so that increases students' engagement and gives an immediate, feedback from the students. Or you can just ask students to give a comment about an explanation or something that is shown them, and they can do that in the chat or using emoticons. Also, you can use polls, for example, in G Suite for Education, which is a platform very popular at school that is used in a lot of schools at the moment. There is this possibility to, organize polls with multiple choice, so you can ask students to answer questions and so to express their own opinions about a topic. A very interesting tool is also Kaizena, that can be used by teachers to create voice comments on student work, so giving constructive feedback. Here are some other examples that can be used in the classroom to support and to make lessons more interactive and engage students, like the Google Forms. And or quizzes like, for example, Socrative or Kahoot. For example, to involve students in oral interaction and discussions. So we can use Padlet, where these virtual walls where students can write their opinions, or very popular at the moment, they can create video messages using Flipgrid. So effective online feedback can make a difference in online classes, and this can have an impact, a positive impact on students' performance, and also in general can enhance both learning and teaching. So can have a very positive influence even on teacher and on their professional development. Linked, rethinking assessment means also design and create innovative tasks, and also reinventing testing. So in online lessons, maybe the traditional testing, the traditional task can be replaced or integrated by other forms of tasks that involve critical thinking skills, soft skills, and even collaboration in students. And here are some of the most popular. For example, at the moment, in my school and in the teachers of my department are involved in projects of challenges, storytelling, and above all, creative and collaborative writing. My school has been organizing a creative writing project for more than 10 years. Recently, we are also creating podcast productions created by students about hot topics, issues, environmental issues, generally chosen by the students. Of course, to assess effectively these new innovative tasks, we need to base this assessment on not only on knowledge, not only on content, but on soft skills. In particular, the 4 C's of education, such as communication, collaboration, critical thinking and creativity, but also adaptability, time management, and digital literacy. This because our students are digital natives, and so they can apply this competence in these kind of tasks. The teachers can use rubrics, can create and use rubric effectively. Rubrics are can be created selecting on internet several free products such as Rubistar, or for example in Google Classroom you can embed some grids, of course deciding which criteria you want to insert in your rubric. In the next slide, I'm going to show you two examples of grids that I used in my online classes. One embedded in Google Classroom that was used for voice notes, the production of voice notes. And the second one was used for a collaborative work for a project. And so the categories that were chosen included also some that concerned the group and the workload. For example, if it was divided and shared equally by all the team members. Very important in feedback and in assessment is peer and self-assessment. Why? Because encourage students to take responsibility for their learning so that they can become even more independent learners and can be more motivated. In this way, they can also reflect on their performance and on the performance of their peers, and they can learn from their mistakes and from peers' mistakes. And also, they can share ideas and experiences. So, in conclusion, we can say that we learn something from online teaching and learning, and that this contributed to enrich English language teaching. So thank you for your attention, and keep in touch. Here are our email addresses.